Hello everyone and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah here. We are holding in Mishnah Berurah Chelik Vav Baruch Hashem, and we are continuing to learn halachos Chol HaMoed. We pick up today on Daf Beis Amud Beis with the new Siman, Siman Tov Kof Lamed Aleph, Dine Giluach B'Chol HaMoed, the halachos that pertain to shaving and haircuts on Chol HaMoed. Ubay Ches Seifim, and here we have 8 Seifim. Says the Mechaber in Sif Aleph, Mitzvah Legaleach Be'erev Yomtiv. This is a quote from the Gemara in Ma'id Cotton. It's a mitzvah to take a haircut and to shave on Erev Yomtiv L'chvaid Yomtiv. Says the Mishnah Berurah Cotton Aleph, Mitzvah Legaleach. There's a mitzvah to shave, take a haircut. Kedei shelo yikanes l'regel kishahu menuval. Now I keep on saying to shave. Not necessarily to shave. If you're clean shaven, to shave. If you have a beard, to trim your beard. The Rishu Zatzal, Rav Moshe Zechesad V'Kadosh Levrach in the Igris Moshe writes that it's very important that someone should trim the beard the way he says it, make the hairs nice and even and straight and fresh looking, and to take a haircut. The Rishu Zatzal does write that if somebody is noyeg like the Ari and he doesn't cut his beard at all, so then obviously he should not. But for those that are not, it's important to trim the beard. So Mishnah Berurah says the reason for this is Kedei shelo yikanes l'regel kishahu menuval, so that he should not come into Yom Tov being menuval, being literally it means disgusting. A person should not come into Yom Tov looking disheveled. That's not the way you come into a Yom Tov. I remember many years ago, we know that the halacha is that during the 9 days, you're allowed to take a warm shower on Erev Shabbos, Lekavod Shabbos, and I think the lashon in halacha is if you regularly take a hot shower every Erev Shabbos, so then Erev Shabbos during the 9 days you could also take a hot shower Lekavod Shabbos. So somebody once asked Rav Moshe, what if somebody is not nizhar to take a hot shower every Erev Shabbos? So Rav Moshe looked at him and say, Vasfar, I think the lashon was Vasfar Pera Adam. But in other words, he said it in unusually strong language for him. He said, what kind of person, what kind of not menschlich a person doesn't take a hot shower? L'kvaid Shabbos. That's a basic thing, L'kvaid Shabbos. So here also, you see that L'kvaid Yom Tov, you can't be Yikanis L'regel Kishuhu Manovel. Person has to prepare himself, he has to come into Yom Tov in a nice way. So there's a mitzvah, L'galech Be'erev Yom Tov. The Mishnah Berurah says a nice cotton beis be'erev Yom Tov, and the Mishnah Berurah points out that the need to take a haircut, to trim your beard, to shave on erev Yom Tov is bein kaidem chatzos ubein la'achar chatzos. You can do this before chatzos on erev Yom Tov or after chatzos. Levad may erev Pesach, with the exception of erev Pesach, the osir lehistaper la'achar chatzos. On Pesach, you're not allowed to shave, take a haircut after Chatzos, and the reason for that is because that's already the Zman Hakravas Pesach. That's already the time that would be kosher for the Hakrava, for the bringing of the Carbon Pesach, so it's already a shtik ala Yom Tov. Kamavur le'el b'simen tav samach ches. In the Dirshu footnote number 1, he brings down over here, just interesting, again from the Rishu Zatzal, from Rav Moshe and the Igris Moshe, he brings down over here, how about somebody who has his hair a little bit long, and the way he says it is, v'noyhu loy b'kach. In other words, he likes the way it looks. That's the way he wants his hair to look. That's what's nice for him. So the Rishu Zatzal says, in that case, einem mechuyev b'taspeiros l'chvayda regel. If that's what he considers, it doesn't mean that he's nuts and everybody else thinks he looks manuvel. But if he looks nice, if that's the way his hair looks nice, so then there's no reason for him to take a haircut. He's not coming into the Yom Tov manuvel. He's coming into the Yom Tov looking very nicely. Okay, and also over here in this footnote, he mentions what I said earlier. When it comes to trimming and a beard and making it look nice, that a person should trim and make his beard nice and even. You shouldn't leave it looking sloppy. Okay. So here in Sif Aleph, the Mechaber told us that there's a mitzvah to take a haircut and to be megaleach on Erev Yom Tov. Now, how about during Chol HaMoed, Sif Beis? Ein megalchin b'moed. You're not allowed to take a haircut, you're not allowed to shave, you're not allowed to trim your beard on Chol HaMoed. Afilu im gilach koydem moed, and this is true even if you did so on Erev Yom Tov. And we'll see what the point of that is. Now, before we go into any, well, let's take a look in the Mishnah Berurah's Cut and Gimel. Ein megalchin b'moed, you can't shave on Chol HaMoed. V'hu hadin sipor harosh. Also, you can't take a haircut in any way. Elashadarkan hayol galeach. They would do a giluach. They would cut the hair of the head very, very close. But the same thing, tasperis harosh. You can't take a haircut. Now, the Chavetz Chaim points out, va'af desipor v'giluach hu davar shel yipui v'tikun haguf shehu tzarech hamoed. He says this is very interesting because the truth is that taking a haircut and shaving, these are things that l'chayra are tzarech hamoed. It's tikun, it's yipui. It makes you look nice, and it's tikun haguf. It's something that you're doing to improve your guf. L'chayra, that's a tzarech hamoed. And also, really, this is not a maisa uman, even though we do have professional barbers. But I mean, a lot of people give themselves haircuts. A lot of people buy a haircut machine and they give their kids haircuts. So giving a haircut, strictly speaking, and for sure trimming a beard, shaving, this is not a maisa uman. So l'chayra, it's a tzarech hamoed. It's not a maisa uman. So why can't you do it on Chol HaMoed? What's the isser? So that's what the Chavetz Chaim is pointing out over here. Even though this seems to be something which is a tzarech hamoed, and it's not a maisa uman, still in all, the Chazal said that it is usher to do this on Chol HaMoed. Why? Because we want to make sure that a person is going to be mekayim what we learned in Sif Aleph. We want to make sure that a person is going to take care to take a haircut and to shave before Yom Tov, so that he should come into Yom Tov looking menschlich. We're afraid that if it would be mutter to take a haircut and to shave during Chol HaMoed, what would happen very often is a person is very, very, very busy on Erev Yom Tov. He's not going to get around to a haircut. He's not going to get around to shaving. And he'll say, all right, so listen, I'll take a haircut and I'll take a shave on Chol HaMoed. So I won't look so great on the first day's Yom Tov. But right after the first day's Yom Tov, I'll go ahead and I'll do what I have to do. Chazal didn't want that. So they said, in order to make sure that you're going to take care of yourself on Erev Yom Tov, we're going to make it aser on Chol HaMoed. If they're allowed to do it on Chol HaMoed, we're afraid they're going to come into Yom Tov kishein menuvalin. And that's why, let's take a look at Ice Cut and Dalit. That's why the Mechaber points out that it's usher to take a haircut or to shave on Chol HaMoed, afilu in gilach koydem moed. Says the Chavetz Chaim, Ice Cut and Dalit, Dirshu ein b'chash zeh sheyikanis l'regel kishehu menuval. If somebody did take a haircut properly on Erev Yom Tov, if he did shave on Erev Yom Tov, you might say, all right, now for this person, there is no chash, there is no reason to be concerned that now that we're going to allow him to shave again on Chol HaMoed, so he's going to rely on it that he's not going to shave on Erev Yom Tov. He did shave on Erev Yom Tov. So maybe now you'll say it's if you shaved on Erev Yom Tov, it's mutter for you to do it on Chol HaMoed. No. The su'ein b'chash zeh sheyikanis l'regel kishehu menuval. The hagilach atzmai gam koydem haregel. Afilu hachi aser, it's still aser to take a haircut or to shave on Chol HaMoed, mishum harayin, because of other people. The haraya, somebody who sees that he's nice, freshly shaven on Chol HaMoed, or that he has a nice, beautiful trim, fresh trim on Chol HaMoed, lo yeda shegilach atzmai. He doesn't necessarily realize that this fellow took a haircut and a shave on Erev Yom Tov. The Yomar, he's going to look at him and he's going to say, oh, Shamut legalech b'chol gavni. I thought it was aser to shave and to take a haircut on Chol HaMoed. But I see Rabbi Yankel came here, and I see him this morning on Chol HaMoed. I see he's freshly shaven, so I guess it's mutter. So because of that, we aser even on somebody who does do what he's supposed to do before Yom Tov, on Erev Yom Tov, it's still aser on Chol HaMoed. Now we're going to see that there are some exceptions to this rule. Says the Mechaber in Siv Gimel. We're not up to the exceptions yet. Siv Gimel. Afilu imahaya onus. Even if somebody had an onus. It wasn't his fault that he didn't take a haircut or a shave on Erev Yom Tov. It was an onus. Says the Mishnah Berurah, nice cut and hey, afilu imahaya onus. Kegoin, for example, shenevad lo aveda be'erev haregel. He lost something valuable on Erev Yom Tov, and he was very taken up searching for it. Oyel ha'uman, or the barber shop was closed because the barber was running around busy with something. And he therefore wasn't able to shave or to take a haircut. Or kahai gavno, or something similar to this. Sharei anosin. Other types of oinsin, levad hamuvuarim leheter b'seifim sha'achar zeh. And other than the oinsim that we're going to see in Siv Dalid, where if you have one of those oinsim, you are allowed to take a haircut. Now let's stop here and go back up to the Mechaber. So the Mechaber says, afilu im haya onus, even if you are mamish an oinus, umipnei kach legilach be'erev Yom Tov, and because of the oinus, that's why you didn't take a haircut or a shave on Erev Yom Tov, still einoi megaleach b'moed. You're still not allowed to take a shave or a haircut on Chol HaMoed. So don't say, well, the whole reason I'm not allowed to take a haircut or a shave during Chol HaMoed is because I was supposed to do it on Erev Yom Tov. I couldn't do it on Erev Yom Tov because I had an oinus. So now it should be mutter for me on Chol HaMoed. Says the Mechaber, no, that doesn't help. Einu megalech b'moed. V'hu adin, and the same halacha applies. Let's say somebody was ill before Yom Tov. And the Chavetz Chaim says that there are those that feel that taking a haircut makes a person who's ill feel worse. So he's an oinus mitad cholyai. He couldn't take a haircut before Yom Tov because he was ill. So he couldn't do it on Erev Yom Tov. So you might think now it's a mutter on Chol HaMoed. Says the Mechaber, no. Even if you had an oinus on Erev Yom Tov, that doesn't give you the halachic right to go take a haircut or a shave on Chol HaMoed. Let's go back to the Mishnah Berurah. We'll continue in Ois Hay. So even an oinus, you're not allowed to take a haircut or a shave on Chol HaMoed. Levada muvuarim leheter b'seifim sha'achar zeh, with the exception of the type of oinsim that we're going to see in Siv Dalid. Dahani anosin, the oinsim that we're going to see in Siv Dalid, miforsamin ugeluyin lakoilhu. Those are the type of oinsim where everybody knows that you had an oinus. Those are oinsim that everybody heard about and everybody knows about, and they know that you had an oinus which made that you couldn't take a haircut or a shave on Erev Yom Tov, and therefore when they see that you did on Chol HaMoed, they're not going to learn from you. They understand that you're doing it because you had an oinus on Erev Yom Tov. But the regular garden variety type of oinsim, which are the ones that we're addressing here in Siv Gimel, einam miforsamin v'yeduim. Not everybody is going to know that you had an oinus. V'em nater lehem, and therefore if we're going to allow these people who had these kind of garden variety oinsim to go take a haircut or a shave on Chol HaMoed, yavoy lahater av shaloi mitoich oinus. Other people are going to come to be matir taking a haircut or a shave even when there's no oinus. Ois cut and vav. So an oinus on Erev Yom Tov doesn't allow you to take a haircut or a shave on Chol HaMoed. And the Mechaber said, V'hu adin l'misha haya chayla. And the same thing holds true by somebody who is ill. Sha'amru, they say, sha'achayla kishuhu misaper, that an ill person, when he takes a haircut, machbid alav cholyoy. His illness gets even worse. And therefore, that seems to be a very bona fide oinus. Person couldn't take a haircut on Erev Yom Tov because he was ill, and there was a fear that the haircut would make his illness worse. Afilu hachi, still in all, ein ze oinus golid kolkach. This is not an oinus that is so well known. Not everybody is going to know that he had an oinus. And therefore, they're going to see he takes a haircut or a shave on Chol HaMoed, v'yavayu lahater av shaloi mitoich oinus v'chanal, and they're going to end up being matir other people to take a haircut or a shave on Chol HaMoed without understanding that this person was allowed to do it because he had an oinus. Okay, so far here in Siv Gimel, we said that an oinus does not remove this isser. An oinus on Erev Yom Tov does not allow you to take a haircut or a shave during Chol HaMoed. Now we're going to see the exceptions to this rule. Siv Dalet. The elu migalchin b'mayid. However, the following people are allowed to take a haircut or a shave during Chol HaMoed. And if you take a look right away at the Bir Halacha, Diver Amaschel ve'elu megalchin b'mayid, the Chavetz Chaim says, you should know, the elu shehitiru legaleach, these individuals that we are allowing to take a haircut or a shave on Chol HaMoed, afilu kedarkoi b'li shinoi. These people are allowed to do it even without any kind of shinoi. They don't have to do it in an abnormal way. They could do it totally in the normal way. All the way at the end of this Bir Halacha, on Gimel Amud Aleph, the Chavetz Chaim is a little bit disturbed by that. He brings down there v'lechara kasha. In a way, the Chavetz Chaim says this is shver. Haloi davar she'enoi ochel nefesh v'hu l'tzarech hamayid. This is a tzarech hamayid, taking the haircut, but it's not ochel nefesh. Kaim alon deboi shinoi. Usually we say you need a shinoi. He says v'ulai mipnei shayuad kayanusim badavar asam chazal kadavar avid. The Kaimalon the Bedavra Ovid ain't Shinoi. He says maybe the reason over here these people are allowed to take a haircut without a Shinoi is because since he was an Einus until now, and the reason we're being matter him to do it during Chol HaMoed is because on Erev Yom Tov he was an Einus. So now we want to be matter this. Now that we're being matter it, we look at it and we say, you know what? Really not taking a haircut is a Davar Ovid. I guess, why is it a davar ovid? Because this guy feels very bad. He's showing up in shul looking disheveled on Yom Tov. It makes him feel very bad. So it's a davar ovid if he doesn't take a haircut now. And therefore he could do it without a shinoi. But in any case, let's go back to the Mechaber Siv Dalet. Ve'elu megalchid b'mayid. The following people are allowed to take a haircut during Chol HaMoed. Mi sheyotza mi beis hashivya. Somebody who just got out of some type of captivity. He was being held captive on Erev Yom Tov, and he couldn't take a haircut. And now he just got out of captivity. And he didn't have time from when he got out of captivity until when Yom Tov started. He Pasha didn't have time to take a haircut. Says the Mishnah Berurah, nice cut in Zayin. Let's say he was released from captivity, not on Erev Yom Tov, but on the first day of Yom Tov itself, he was released from captivity. So it was impossible for him to take a haircut before the Moed. Or he was released from captivity on Erev Yom Tov, but very close to Yom Tov. So that there was no time for him to take a haircut or a shave on Erev Yom Tov. Continues the Mechaber. So that's one case. We have one case over here where that's an oinus that everybody knows about. Did you hear Yankel? He was released by the hijackers. So that's something that's very, very well known. So if people see that he takes a shave or a haircut in Chol HaMoed, they understand why, because they understand he couldn't do it before Yom Tov. Says the Mechaber weiter, another case, Umi sheyatza mi beis ha'asurim. Very similar case. Somebody got out of jail. He was in jail, and now he got out of jail. Even if he was being held a prisoner in some kind of a Yiddish jail, and in the Yiddish jail they would have allowed him while he was in jail to take a haircut or a shave l'kavod Yom Tov, but on Erev Yom Tov. Still in all, this person is considered an oinus, and he's allowed to take a haircut or a shave on Chol HaMoed. And the Mishnah Berurah is going to say, even if you're held prisoner in a Yiddish prison, still you're sharoi b'tzar, your mind is taken up by the fact that you're a prisoner and you're not running to take a haircut or a shave on Erev Yom Tov, and that's understandable. Says the Mishnah Berurah in Ois Katan Ches, Umi sheyatza mi beis ha'asurim, somebody who got out of prison. So the Chavetz Chaim just points out that when we're saying this case, Hachidami here too, just like in the previous case of the Mechaber, somebody who got out of captivity, and where the Mechaber said you're allowed to take a haircut in Chol HaMoed if you got out of captivity and you didn't have the time or the ability to take a haircut or a shave before Yom Tov. So to here, the person who got out of prison, we're talking about somebody who got out of prison and was unable to take a haircut or a shave before Yom Tov. If he got out of prison early in the morning on Erev Yom Tov. So fine, he got out of prison, but he had time to take a haircut or a shave. Why didn't he? That person would not be allowed to shave or take a haircut in Chol HaMoed. Ice cut and test. We spoke about somebody who got out of prison, and the Mechaber said even Biyad Yisrael, even if he was in a Yiddish prison. Why? So then why is he allowed to take a haircut in Chol HaMoed? L'chari, the Yiddish prisoners would not prisoners. The Yiddish imprisoners would allow him to take a haircut in Erev Yom Tov. Still, the Chavetz Chaim says the Kemet Shahaya B'tzar, since on Erev Yom Tov he was in prison and he was B'tzar, lo Gilach, he didn't shave or take a haircut, and that we understand. Says the Mechaber Vayter on the bottom line here in Beis Amud Beis, another case where you're allowed to take a haircut or a shave on Chol HaMoed. V'chein hamenudeh, somebody who was in nidui, somebody who was placed in cherem by Bezdin. He was excommunicated. Such a person is not allowed to take a haircut and he's not allowed to shave. V'chein hamenudeh shehetir lei beregel. You had somebody who was in cherem and the Bezdin released the cherem from him on Yom Tov. So he wasn't able to shave or take a haircut before Yom Tov. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cutting yud shehetir lei beregel. They released him from the cherem on Yom Tov. Before they released him from cherem, he wasn't allowed to take a haircut or a shave. So before Yom Tov, on Erev Yom Tov, he was an onus. He wasn't allowed to take a haircut or a shave. Now, the Chavetz Chaim points out, there are those who disagree with this. And they hold for whatever reason this person was put into cherem, he could have come to the Bezdin and he could have said, listen, I will live by your requirements. I'll do whatever it is that you're requiring me to do. Obviously, Bezdin held that this person has to do something that he's not doing, and that's why they put him in cherem. They put him so he could come back to Bezdin. He could say, all right, I give up. I'll do whatever you tell me to do. Just take off the cherem. He could have done that before Yom Tov, v'loy pies, and he didn't do it. So heavy paisheya, that person is considered a paisheya. The fact that he's still in cherem on Erev Yom Tov is considered his fault. V'asa legalech beregel, and therefore we don't call him an oinus. Why is he an oinus? He should have come to Bezdin, he should have appeased Bezdin, and Bezdin would have taken him out of cherem on Erev Yom Tov, and then he could have shaved or he could have taken a haircut. The fact that he didn't do that makes him a paisheya, not an oinus, that he couldn't shave or take a haircut on Erev Yom Tov. When we come Makayim, nevertheless, says the Chavetz Chaim, HaMekel, somebody who's Mekel, and says, like the Mechaber said, that if you were in cherem on Erev Yom Tov, you're allowed to take a haircut and a shave on Chol HaMoed. Yesh lay al milismaich, they have who to rely on, kevin shu milsa derabanan, especially since we're talking here about Isurei derabanan. Now, the ones who argue on the Mechaber over here, the Sharetzian brings down that this is a rush and a tur, and they bring down a Yerushalmi. I believe that what the Yerushalmi says over there is, the Yerushalmi asks this as a question. The Yerushalmi says, I don't understand. Why is somebody who was in cherem on Erev Yom Tov, why is he considered to be an oinus? Let him appease Bezdin on Erev Yom Tov, and they'll take off the cherem. And then he could take a haircut or a shave on Erev Yom Tov. So why is he considered an oinus? And the Yerushalmi answers the question by saying that the halacha is stam nidui shloishim yom. That a nidui, when they put somebody in cherem, it's 30 days. And usually they don't take the cherem off before 30 days, even if you appease them. And therefore, if it's not 30 days yet, so then him going and appeasing the Bezdin wouldn't have helped. Now, the Bavli doesn't bring down this question and this answer, but the Yerushalmi does. Now, the question, what do we see from that Yerushalmi? The Yerushalmi could have said that no, even though he could have appeased the Bezdin, that doesn't make him a pesheya. That's not what the Yerushalmi says. The Yerushalmi seems to say that if the Baldin could have appeased the Bezdin and have the cherem taken off, then the Yerushalmi agrees he's taka pesheya, not an oinus, and that's why the Yerushalmi gives this answer of ein nidui less than shloishim yom. But this is the Yerushalmi; it's not a Bavli. We don't have this in the Bavli. Okay, says the Mechaber Vayter on the bottom line. V'chein misha nadar shaloi legaleach. Let's say somebody made a neder that he's not going to shave or take a haircut. V'nishal al nidroi baregel, and he goes to a chacham to be matir neder on Yom Tov. So, Erev Yom Tov, he couldn't take a haircut or a shave because Erev Yom Tov, he was still under his neder. Now, on Chol HaMoed, he went to a chacham, and the chacham did HaTorah Nedarim for him. He was shayel his neder. So, all right, so he wasn't able to take a haircut or shave before Yom Tov, so now he's allowed to do it on Chol HaMoed. However, again, says the Mishnah Berurah over here, nice cutting Yod Aleph on the bottom of Beis and Beis, V'nishal al nidroi beregel, again, v'yesh cholkin gam bazeh. There are those who argue on the mechaber with this case also. If the person was able to ask a chacham for HaTorah Nedarim before Yom Tov, so then he's not an oinus. He wasn't an oinus on Erev Yom Tov. He was a pesheya. Why didn't he do HaTorah Nedarim already before Yom Tov? So it has to be that the case that we're talking about over here is only if he couldn't do HaTorah Nedarim before Yom Tov because he couldn't find a chacham. He couldn't find a chacham to be shayel his neder. So that's why he's considered an oinus. Masha ein kain im lo ratza lahat to be kodim. If it's just that he decided he doesn't want to be matir neder before Yom Tov, v'achar kach nimlach, and then on Chol HaMoed he decided to be matir neder, lo chashav oinus, that doesn't make him an oinus. V'das ha'magen Avram lahakel bazeh kedas ha'mechaber. However, the Magen Avram rules that you should be lenient over here, like the opinion of the mechaber. We don't consider this person a paisheya since he didn't try to be matir neder on Erev Yom Tov. Why isn't he considered a paisheya? Because before Yom Tov, for whatever reason, he wasn't ready to be matir his neder. And then he decided to be matir his neder. Okay, we'll do one more case over here on the top of Gimel Amud Aleph. V'chein haba mimedina sayam. Also, somebody who was traveling and he came from overseas. Says the Mishnah Berurah that's cutting your base. Haba mimedina sayam. Somebody came traveling from overseas and he came home on Erev Yom Tov. He didn't have time to take a shave or a haircut. He's allowed to take a shave or a haircut on Chol HaMoed. Says the Chavetz Chaim, Tafka mimedina sayam de mefarsa memilsa. This is only if he came back from overseas. So that's a very significant trip. Everybody says, wow, did you see Yankel is back? Remember, Yankel went traveling overseas, especially back then. Traveling overseas was a major, major, major deal. It's not like nowadays people fly back and forth to Eretz Yisrael like it's nothing. They're in the United States in the beginning of the week, and then they go to Eretz Yisrael in the middle of the week, and they're back in the United States at the end of the week. So it's not such a big deal. But back then, especially, somebody traveled overseas. Wow, everybody knows that he traveled overseas. So now when he comes back in Chol HaMoed and he takes a fresh shave, everybody understands. Yeah, well, he just came back from overseas on Erev Yom Tov. He didn't have time to take a haircut. But if somebody is just traveling locally, so the fact that he just arrived home on Erev Yom Tov doesn't give him the halachic right to go take a shave or a haircut. Doesn't necessarily have to be overseas. It just has to be that he came back from a long journey. Anybody who's coming from out of the city, Mikri Medinas Hayam. Chol HaMoed, Ice Cotton Yud Gimel. If he came from overseas, the Mechaber said, B'Chol HaMoed, he arrived home on Chol HaMoed. Says the Chavetz Chaim, V'davke shaloi ba b'yishuv ad Chol HaMoed. This heter, that if you came traveling from out of town, and you came home on Chol HaMoed, you could take a haircut, says the Chavetz Chaim, that means that you didn't come to a Yiddish shtat. You didn't come to an area, to a Yiddish neighborhood until Chol HaMoed. Dim Baba Erev Yom Tov b'makom yishuv. If you came to a Yiddish neighborhood on Erev Yom Tov, if you came to a Yiddish neighborhood at 10 o'clock in the morning on Erev Yom Tov, on the way back from your journey, so you had plenty of time to go take a haircut in this Yiddish neighborhood, just you didn't get home until Chol HaMoed, but you got to a Yiddish neighborhood on Erev Yom Tov, now already you're not considered an oinus. If you live in Staten Island and you came traveling and you got to Passaic on Erev Yom Tov at 10 o'clock in the morning, guess what? You could have taken a haircut in Pesach. V'ayin b'magen Avram shekasav, ta'avki shahoy b'makom yishuv, b'shnayim or shloisha yomim kaidem haregel. Let's say somebody was traveling home, and it's a long distance, and he got to a Yiddish neighborhood 2 or 3 days before Yom Tov. V'akakach be'erev Yom Tov, lo haya b'yishuv. Then he was traveling again to get home, and he came home late on Erev Yom Tov. So on Erev Yom, 2 days before Yom Tov, he was in a Yiddish neighborhood. But now he left that Yiddish neighborhood to travel home, and again he wasn't in a Yiddish neighborhood until he arrived at home right before Yom Tov. Kigon sheyoshav az al asfina, ubala beisay b'chol HaMoed, or shebala ir samach l'chashecha v'lo yishayis b'yom l'galech, gam kein mutter l'galech b'chol HaMoed. He also would be mutter to take a shave or a haircut during Chol HaMoed. Kevin the be'erev Yom Tov, gufa haya anus. Since on Erev Yom Tov he was an anus, because on Erev Yom Tov he wasn't in a Yiddish neighborhood. He was traveling until he got home right before Yom Tov. Doesn't matter that 2 or 3 days before Yom Tov he had the ability to take a haircut. That's not when he has the mitzvah to take a haircut. He has the mitzvah to take a haircut on Erev Yom Tov. And on Erev Yom Tov he was an anus. Okay, we're going to stop over here in the middle of Sit Gimel. Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. Schus of limud HaTorah should be Megan against Klal Yisrael. The Rebbe should send Yeshuas, Refuas, and Parnasa to everyone in need. We should be zeicher to see the BS girl Tzedek and Herav Yamein. Be well.